Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for being with us today. Our ceremony will now commence with music from Loretto Abbey, Dalkey. Thank you. Thank you so much. Before I start my remarks, could I ask everyone to please put their mobile phone onto silent mode if you haven't already done so, and to also note the emergency exits at the back of the room. Good morning, everyone. You are all very welcome here today. My name is Anya Griffin, and I am the Head of Communications in the Department of Justice. Although today marks the 10th anniversary of Missing Persons Day, this is only my second time attending and my first as your MC. I am with you today as, unfortunately, Barry Cummins, who has so ably stewarded the ceremony for the last decade, is unable to join us for work-related reasons. He sends his very best wishes and his thoughts to all families gathered here today. In turn, I wish to pay tribute to his tireless advocacy. He has also been incredibly supportive and generous as we prepared for today, and we owe him a huge debt of gratitude. Thank you, Barry. I never thought last year, as I witnessed your stirring testimonies, met many of you, and heard such moving music, that this year I would be up in front of you. That responsibility is not lost on me. In the department and across the Justice family, we consider this to be one of the most important days in our calendar. It is important because today is the day when we come together to remember those who are missing. It is the day we hear some of your stories, and it's the day that you cherish the hope you have in your hearts. It is also the day where, by drawing focus to missing persons, we might refresh someone's memory or inspire them to come forward with any information that they might have. Since Barry let us know he wouldn't be available, I have been speaking to and meeting with some of you. I hope to get to know more of you over the course of the day and at other times when we will come together. With each connection I have made, I have been continually struck by your tremendous grace. I know answering a call from someone who introduces herself as a Department of Justice official must have set your thoughts racing. I know potentially that being asked to revisit your story could be re-traumatizing for you. I know that every time you think of your loved one, you must feel a range of emotions from joy to pain. I am so grateful for your candour and for your participation today. When I met Dermot Brown, he spoke to me about the hope you carry. Inspired by him, today is themed around hope. Dermot will talk more about that when he speaks to you later, but just to say, we are conscious that hope is complicated, multi-layered, and varies from family to family. The other quality that has stood out to me is your resolve. Every family member I have spoken to has shown such strength and purpose. I suspect that such strength doesn't come easy. I suspect it comes from overcoming things you had never before imagined. As I made my preparations, I also met many colleagues across the justice sector, many of whom I would not necessarily have engaged with, but for this day. In these meetings too, that sense of purpose was palpable. Our Garda colleagues from the Missing Persons Unit, Detective Superintendent Colm Noonan, Detective Chief Superintendent Colm Noonan, Detective Superintendent Sinead Green, Detective Inspector Anne Ellis, Detective Sergeant Carmel Griffin, Detective Garda Daniel Keeney, Detective Sandra Brennan, Ms Maeve O'Mahony, Mr Jordan Kelleher and Mr Nice Paul are true public servants, steadfastly dedicated to their work. I was similarly struck by how movingly Dr Geraldine O'Donnell of FSI spoke recently about the profound impact that DNA can have in resolving a missing persons case. FSI are here today should you wish to provide a DNA sample. Advancements in DNA profiling have led to case breakthroughs in recent years. We are more than a department. We are a sector. You have our empathy, our solidarity, and the promise that we will never stop being there for you. Minister Brown will expand further on our agenda, but briefly, over the course of today, we will hear from both him and the Garda Commissioner, Drew Harris. Thank you both so much for being here. As I said earlier, Dermot Brown of the National Missing Persons Helpline will talk to us on the theme of hope. Today we will hear the stories of some of our missing people told through their loved ones. These are Rita Mooney, sister of Gerard Mooney, missing since 1996. Michael Jacob, father of Deirdre Jacob, missing since 1998. Ram Hyde, brother of Peter Hyde, missing since 1981. And Leona Tighe, sister of Jean Tighe, missing since 2020. We will also be joined by Assistant Chief Constable of the PSNI, Ryan Henderson. John Hill, lead investigator for the Independent Commission for the Location of Victims' Remains, will speak to us on his work to recover the remains of those killed and secretly buried during the Troubles in Northern Ireland. Finally, we will hear from Colin Bell of the Kevin Bell Repatriation Trust, which aims to alleviate the financial hardship of bereaved families repatriating the bodies of loved ones who have died abroad in sudden or tragic circumstances. As I said to Charles earlier, sometimes in the department when we are getting ready for this day, we describe it as an event, but really it is a ceremony. An integral part of this ceremony is the beautiful music which is threaded throughout today. Music brings up memories and emotions. Music can be a companion to our feelings. Above all, music is a communal experience, and being together is what today is all about. We are joined by the choir from Loreto Abbey Dalkey, made up of 20 students from first year up to sixth year, and led by their music coordinator, Niamh Penston. This is Niamh's second year with this choir. Niamh was previously involved with the National Missing Persons Day with the Penston Vocal Academy and has performed for 3 of our ceremonies. We are honoured to have Niamh and the choir here to perform for you today. Thank you very much. We also have the great privilege of being joined by Don Meskel, a true friend to the National Missing Persons Helpline. Performing live is a huge part of Don's career. He regularly tours in Ireland, the UK, Europe and the US. As well as writing and performing his own music, Don's songs have featured on albums by Lone Star, Sharon Corr, Ronan Keating, Christy Dignam and many, many more. So thank you, Don, for your generosity in being with us today. We will also have a performance from professional musician Bianca Rollader. Bianca's career has spanned more than 25 years. She herself has a strong personal connection to Missing Persons Day, as her brother Paul Martin Rollader went missing in September 2003 from Ballyshannon in County Donegal. We are so pleased to welcome her back again this year, and she is joined by her partner, Robbie Faltrell. Thank you, Bianca and Robbie. We are joined too by the Garda Band. Besides providing music for official Garda functions, the band performs at a huge variety of events and ceremonies each year. It has a long association with Missing Persons Day, and we are delighted to welcome Inspector Kenny and the rest of the band here again this year. Thank you very much. Finally, I wanted to acknowledge that today is a very emotional day, and I wanted to say to you that every emotion you feel is valid. If you feel the need to cry, do. No one here will judge you for that. You are in a safe space with us. In the words of Washington Irving, there is sacredness in tears. They are not the mark of weakness, but of power. They speak more eloquently than 10,000 tongues. They are the messages of unspeakable love. I will now hand over to Minister James Brown, who will be followed by Garda Commissioner Drew Harris. Thank you, Minister.
Thank you very much, Anya, and good morning and welcome to all of the families and friends, invited guests and contributors for Missing Persons Day. It's an honour for me to speak with you at this very important annual event. Missing Persons Day is one of the most important days in the Department of Justice calendar, and I think the most important day when it comes to people. It is the day when we hear some of the most stories of those who are missing, and it is a day whereby, drawing focus to missing persons, we might refresh someone's memory to inspire them to come forward with information that they might have. Next year, Missing Persons Day will serve as a centrepiece for a new Missing Persons Week. Missing Person Week will comprise of a week-long series of events and social media campaign aimed at bringing much needed awareness to the missing persons cases and hopefully answers for those who have been left behind. I know that Dermot Brown, whose Missing Persons Helpline does such valuable work, will speak at today's theme of hope. I too would like to say a few words about hope to begin our ceremony today. Although the circumstances around each story of a missing person may vary, everyone who has had a family member or friend go missing hopes for the same thing: a resolution. For everyone, this resolution will be different. The nature of ambiguous loss means that reaching this resolution and what it will entail is unclear. This uncertainty is uniquely painful, and I have no doubt that it can only be truly appreciated by those who find themselves in those circumstances. Coming together on Missing Persons Day can, hopefully, create a sense of solidarity among those who have experienced this very tragic loss. Being able to share an experience with someone who has gone through the same thing can, I hope, help in some small way. When I arrived this morning, I was very much struck with the warmth between everybody as they greeted each other coming in. It is clear to see how these important connections are, how people can draw strength from each other to keep going in those very darkest moments, to maintain that element of hope when it can be so difficult to do so. Today, we will hear from a number of family members of missing persons who have kindly volunteered to tell their stories. It's a very deep privilege for me, as I'm sure it is for all of us, to hear their personal stories. I want to thank very much Rita Mooney, Michael Jacob, Leona Teig and Rome Hyde for sharing their stories. I look forward, as I'm sure you do, to hearing the musical contributions from Bianca Rollader and her partner Robbie, Don Mescal, the choir from Loreto Doki, and of course the Garda Band. Today's ceremony also gives us an opportunity to hear from those who dedicate their lives and their careers and time to locating missing persons. And in an effort to help to bring that closure for those families of the missing persons. I look forward to hearing from John Hill, the lead investigator for the Independent Commission for the Location of Victims' Remains, Assistant Chief Constable Ryan Henderson of the PSNI, and Colin Bell of the Kevin Bell Repatriation Trust about all of their very valuable work. I and my colleague Minister McEntee are conscious of the part our department can play in fostering that hope and providing the family and friends of missing persons a way to staying on the path. That is why we are continuing a vital work to help bring resolution, whatever that may be, to all of your families. Last year, we committed to publishing a database of unidentified remains in Ireland, and in May of this year, we published the first ever unidentified remains database, which now comprises of 45 records. That was a positive first step, but it is only the first. We are committed to exploring how we can improve the database. These improvements may be through the inclusion of appropriate images and more detailed information where that is available. I know that the Unidentified Human Remains Forum met recently to discuss what improvements could be made and will continue those discussions over the coming months. The forum is comprised of officials from my department, members of An Garda Síochána, Forensic Science Ireland, the State Pathologist and the Coroner Service. There is an appetite across all agencies to see an effective unidentified remains database, which will evolve as necessary. The unidentified remains database and many missing persons cases depend heavily on the collection and processing of DNA samples. Forensic Science Ireland play a vital role contributing to our national DNA database, which was first established back in 2015. Forensic Science Ireland are in the process of moving to their new purpose-built laboratory in Backweston. And this new facility opens up new horizons for forensic science in Ireland. It will allow a more integrated forensic service, where all chemical analysis, DNA and biological analysis and physical analysis services can be provided from the same location in an integrated and a cohesive way. Forensic science officials are here today to collect DNA samples, and I would encourage family members of missing persons to speak to them about providing a sample if you have not done so already. The State Pathologist is another state agency who contributes to the work of locating missing persons. And this year, my department, as an enterprise partner, committed to funding postdoctoral research to be carried out by Dr. Niamh McCullough in collaboration with the Office of the State Pathologist. Dr. McCullough, who spoke at last year's Missing Persons Day, will be working on a project entitled Searching for Missing Homicide Victims, developing a data-driven model. Dr. McCullough's research, which she will carry out alongside the State Pathologist, Dr. Linda Mulligan, and will expand and improve the search paradigm for missing persons presumed to be victims of homicide through more extensive data collection and the addition of more recent cases from the Office of the State Pathologist database. This research project has the potential to have significant positive impacts for An Garda Síochána investigating missing persons cases, and of course for families of missing loved ones and the wider public. I'm very pleased that my department is involved in such an innovative and potentially impactful work. I will finish by commending the work of An Garda Síochána and specifically the Missing Persons Unit, who continue to do vital work every day. Members attached to the unit assist district officers in their management of missing persons investigations, advising local Gardaí on complex missing persons investigations, coordinating DNA retrieval from family members of missing persons, and provide assistance in the area of training and policy implementation. Gardaí all across the country, working in their communities, also play a hugely comforting role in the lives of families who've had a loved one go missing. I would like to extend my thanks to the Garda members who work so closely for their service and assistance over many, many years. I want to thank everyone here today for attending today's ceremony in person and those attending virtually. My special thanks once again to all of our speakers, and particularly our family speakers, for sharing your very personal stories and allowing us to commemorate with you your loved ones. We are keeping hope alive, and today is very much part of that. I want to thank you very much, and I now welcome Garda Commissioner Drew Harris to the stage. Thank you.
Good morning, Minister, invited guests, my own colleagues in An Garda Síochána, my colleagues from the Police Service of Northern Ireland, but most importantly, the loved ones and friends of the missing persons. Thank you for the invitation to speak here this morning as we gather to mark National Missing Persons Day. And it's a huge privilege to be here, and my thanks to the Department of Justice for organising this very important event. Today is a day filled with complex and deep emotion, and it is also a very important day. It is a day to remember the missing and to share just how much they are dearly missed and loved. It is a day to bring people together in hope, and I would say it is important to hold on to hope. Hope of finding those who are missing and hope of getting answers as to their disappearance. Hope of bringing them home to those who love them and who miss them still so terribly. I want to reassure you all here today that An Garda Síochána too will never lose hope. An Garda Síochána has a duty to establish the circumstances around those who have gone missing and will always strive to find answers for your questions. An Garda Síochána understands that when someone goes missing, it causes great anguish, huge anguish, in the lives of those close to that person. And there's a sense of shock for the entire community. Not knowing what happened to an individual is a constant source of anguish and pain for those affected. And this is why we remain committed to getting answers. We are here to support you and to help you in whatever way possible. In those tragic cases where someone has been recovered after a prolonged period, the National Missing Persons DNA database and advances in forensic science have meant that we are now better equipped to identify that individual. This ensures certainty for families and saves further distress for that person's loved ones. And as the Minister said, if you've not yet done so, I would encourage you to consider submitting a DNA sample to the National Missing Persons DNA database. You can do this today by talking with any of the members of our Missing Persons Unit who are in hand, and this can be facilitated privately. Or alternatively, you can do so on any other day by making contact with the Missing Persons Unit, or indeed just making contact with your local Garda station. We're always there ready to help. My main message today is to assure you that we are here and we continue to seek every piece of information, no matter how insignificant it might seem, in the hope that it can prove crucial now. Furthermore, the use of social media to publicise missing person cases means that crucial information can be spread faster and further. Today acts as an appropriate reminder to the public and media to help us in our ability to raise awareness of renewed appeals. Our team in the Garda Missing Persons Unit works with our colleagues in the PSNI, in the rest of the UK, and with our international partners in Europol and Interpol. And we now have well-practiced procedures for sharing information to resolve missing person cases. This collaborative work helps us to provide answers to the loved ones of missing persons on this island and at times further afield. We remain hopeful that information will come to light during the course of an investigation through public appeals and renewed calls for information. And I make that appeal for information again today, and I'm urging anyone who might have some knowledge in respect of a disappearance of a person to please come forward and make contact with a member of An Garda Síochána. Perhaps you saw something or you had a fleeting encounter with that person, and no matter what it is or how significant it might seem, it could be a missing piece that we need to help locate that person and provide some sense of closure and certainty for the family. Information can be conveyed in confidence on the Garda confidential line or by contacting any Garda station nationwide. And I want to reassure you all that An Garda Síochána remains steadfast in our duty to leave no stone unturned to find your loved ones who are missing. We regard this as a very important piece of our responsibility and duty to you all in Ireland. We will work diligently in an effort to find answers to the questions you have and to ensure you're kept informed of any and all developments in your loved ones' cases. Today is a day for you, the families, loved ones and friends of those who are missing. It is a day to share cherished memories, to keep their light burning bright, and most of all, it is a day to keep hope in your hearts for their return. Thank you all. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister and Commissioner, for your words. Can I now invite Dermot Brown to come forward, please? Dermot is the person who suggested today's theme, and we are very grateful to that. Dermot has devoted himself to supporting the families of the missing. Following Dermot's words, Jerry Keenan, brother of Imelda Keenan, who has been missing since 1994, will light a candle of hope for Imelda and for all those who are missing. Thank you, Dermot.
Minister, Garda Commissioner, families and friends and invited guests, I just want to say a few short words on the topic of hope. It's that time of year again, and looking around me now I can see all of the old familiar faces who've been here since the first ceremony way back in the day, all still waiting. Although we will never forget our missing loved ones, we try and get on with life by placing them in a special part of our existence, always there, but behind a protective veil. There are times when the veil parts, a special song, anniversary, family occasion, or events such as today, and memories and emotions come flooding back. Though we are all united by the same desire to know the fate and whereabouts of our missing loved ones, we can often feel alone in our situation, not realising how many others are also searching. They too are living with uncertainty and fluctuating between hope and despair as we all navigate our way through the emotional ups and downs of daily life. Despair may be our frequent companion, but yet, and through it all, there must be hope, as that is what keeps us going. So what is hope? Hope is that little light away in the dark distance. In the words of Emily Dickinson, hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. We at the National Missing Persons Helpline will always be there to walk the road with you and support you on your way. Our quarterly family support meets are always well attended, and by the way, our next meeting is scheduled for January. If you are interested in coming along, please talk to us after the ceremony. We aim to maintain hope in the hearts of those who are left behind when a loved one goes missing, and we have long used the candle of hope as a symbol of light through the dark. I'm pleased to see that we have a candle of hope for today's ceremony. And historically, a candle in the window was a sign of welcome, a beacon for loved ones to find their way home. In earlier days and in the countryside, when houses were further apart, the candle was placed in the window when a loved one was away to guide them back home. 30 years ago, Imelda Keenan walked out through her front door of her home in Waterford and simply disappeared. In the intervening years, the Keenan family have been unceasing in their efforts to try and find out what happened to Imelda and to bring her home. I think it is fitting that we invite Imelda's brother Jerry to light our candle of hope today. Jerry. Thank you, Jerry. This lighted candle reflects our hope for the return of our missing loved ones, alive or dead. When a candle is placed close to a window on a dark night, we see two flames reflected in the glass. One flame burns for them, the other burns for you. So please hold the light. May it keep flickering in our hearts while we wait. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dermot and Jerry. That was beautiful. I'd like to invite now Rita Mooney to come forward, please, to tell us the story of her brother, Jared. Thank you, Rita.
Good morning. My name's Rita Mooney. I am the sister of Jared Mooney. Jared went missing in 1996 in Australia, in Sydney. Jared had lived in Australia for 10 years. He had gone over, like most young people, to live the life. And after a couple of years, he actually became an Australian citizen. He worked as a printer. Jared was a very keen cyclist. And while he was here in Ireland, he used to cycle in the Ross Tholton. And he continued that when he went to Australia. He cycled from one side of Australia all the way to Alice Springs. He did that over a 6-week journey, and he did it on his own. Jared was a very big man. He was 6'4", and he was very, very fit. My mother died in February 1996, and Jared came home for the funeral. And as it was in those days, there was no social media, there was no WhatsApp, there was no phones, mobile phones, there was no text messaging. So, you know, after 10 years, it was kind of birthday cards, and Christmas used to be a big time. There used to be price calls on Stephen's Day for family to phone home. He came home, as I said, to my mother's funeral for 2 weeks in February, and he went back to Australia. My other brother was due to be married in July, and he said at the time that he wouldn't actually be home for that. So we didn't expect to kind of hear from him again, but we did expect to hear before my brother's wedding to arrange gifts and cards and so forth. We heard nothing, and at my brother's wedding, we just discussed what had happened, why hadn't he been in touch. We decided to try and ring him. His phone was cut off. For us to contact Ger in Australia, or to get somebody to do a check on him, we had to go to Ashburn Garda Station. They were very, very helpful. They rang the police in Marrickville in Sydney, and they actually went into his apartment. When they went in, they did the usual checks that most people here are aware of. They checked to see if there was any sign of violence, if the locks had been broken, and everything was as it should be. But however, in his fridge, there was sandwiches that were in a Tupperware dish that he had prepared for his meal when he went to work. His milk was dated the 18th of May, and there was bread wrappers in his bin that had been dated the 13th of May. Now, this was now the end of July, so they got CCTV footage, and they found that the last known sighting of him was in Marrickville. He'd paid his rent on the 14th of May, and he had also returned one of 3 videos that he had taken out. An appeal was made. He went everywhere on his bike. He cycled everywhere, which was unusual in Sydney at that time. People just didn't do that. It was discovered that his bike had been handed in to the police in Marrickville on the 18th of May. A man had found it in a lane behind where he had lived. What was unusual about the bike was that it was found on the 16th of May, but there had been a bin collection in that area that morning, and the men who had collected the refuse there said they had not seen the bike. So there was 2 days to account for it where the bike had been. I went over shortly afterwards to Sydney. I had never been in Australia before. I didn't know where to go. I went to the police because they obviously had the key to his apartment. I thought it was very straightforward. I was going to go, stay in the apartment and find him in the local hospitals. That didn't happen. I was there for a week, and I cannot thank the police in New South Wales for their kindness and sensitivity and help. Part of being in Australia was to try and raise publicity, and as everybody who's a missing person knows, you know, publicity is the most important gift, or the most important thing that you can actually do. The media were very good and picked up on it. We went to a local church, and it was then I realised the enormity of what was ahead. They said Mass in 10 different languages in the local church. So there was a huge population that was never going to ever see the television broadcasts or the radio broadcasts or the newspapers. Part of that is I'm hopeful as time goes on, maybe the children of these people who didn't have English as their first language might have heard something from their parents, and through social media might now come forward. Time went by, and of course the case was still open, and in 1999 we went to the coroner's court. We were advised to do this because in Australia is federal, so for the police to search all of Australia, all the prisons, all of the morgues, all of the hospitals, everywhere, you had to go to the coroner's court. This happened, and the coroner recorded a verdict of an open verdict because they didn't know where he was. Time went on again, and I would really like to thank Detective Sergeant Carmel Griffin of the Missing Persons Unit. She was absolutely fantastic. She came to my home, she took my DNA, and she arranged for it to go through Interpol to Australia. There's 780 unidentified bodies in Australia, and I had no hit on it. His body wasn't there. Time went on again, and I was very lucky to meet Tim Desmond from RTE, and he produced a documentary. It's a documentary on One, and it's called Missing Jared, and it actually interviews the police who were in Australia at the time, and it also interviews Carmel Griffin, and for that I'm very grateful. My hope would be that if anybody here has any relatives in Australia, that they would share this documentary. It's available as a podcast, and as I said, maybe somebody will come forward, and my hope would be that if there is anything, that there will be a hit sometime on the DNA database. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rita. Next we will have some more music from Bianca Rollader and Robbie Fottrell and the choir from Loretto Abbey, Dalkey. So if I could invite you all forward, please. Thank you very much. Rita, thank you for your contribution. I listened to that documentary. It was very, very moving, and I do hope that some resolution comes for you for it. Thank you very much, girls. So following the music, we will be hearing from Michael Jacob, who will be telling the story of his daughter, Deirdre. Thank you, Michael, for speaking to us today. Michael will be joined later in his few words by Kathleen Bergen, sister of Jojo Dollard. So again, thank you, Kathleen, for coming forward today. She will also say a few words. So if the choir is ready, I'll step down. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Monia, for giving me the opportunity to speak here today. Minister Brown, Commissioner Harris, families of missing persons, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Michael Jacob. Along with Bernadette, we are the parents of Deirdre Jacob, who has been missing since the 28th of July 1998. We live in Newbridge in County Kildare. On the 28th of July 1998, a beautiful sunny summer's day, shortly after 3 p.m, our family was thrown into turmoil, never to recover again. No matter how hard we try, we cannot understand what happened to Deirdre on that afternoon. We are certain it was something very much out of the ordinary that caused her disappearance. Deirdre was 18 years of age at the time. She was a very outgoing and fun-loving person, liked a variety of music and song, played piano and guitar. She followed GAA and was keenly following the Kildare team in 1998. And not forgetting her love for our 2 Labrador dogs, Juno and Misty. I will give you a short account of Deirdre's movements on that day. Deirdre had completed her first year at college. She was studying to become a primary school teacher in St Mary's College, Strawberry Hill, Twickenham, London, and was spending her summer holidays with Bernadette, her sister Ciara and myself at her home in Newbridge. On that day, we know that Deirdre left home at a little before 1 o'clock to go into Newbridge town centre, a walk of about 25 minutes. Deirdre called to her grandmother around 1:20 and remained with her for a short time. Leaving her grandmother, she walked along the street to the AIB bank, a distance of about 200 paces. Deirdre is clearly visible on a number of CCTV street cameras, and also on the bank camera as she enters, as she moves towards the counter, and again as she leaves. Her business in the bank on that day was to secure a bank draft to send to one of her college colleagues in London, as Deirdre and her friends were intending to secure off-campus accommodation for their second year at college. Leaving the bank, she then proceeded to cross the street to the post office to post on the bank draft. Deirdre again is clearly visible on the post office cameras. As she leaves the post office, Deirdre meets and chats one of her Newbridge friends. Deirdre then returns to her grandmother for a short time, leaving at about 2:35 and commenced the 25-minute walk back home. Deirdre was seen by a number of people on her journey. All sightings were consistent in the description of what she was wearing on the day. The sightings fitted into the time frame of her journey home. She was known to some of the people who reported seeing her. A couple of minutes after 3 p.m. on that summer afternoon, Deirdre was reported crossing the road into the gateway to her home. And this was the last positive sighting of Deirdre. We believe that Deirdre did not enter the house. It seems as if Deirdre vanished into thin air in the vicinity of the gateway to her home, a place that should be one of the safest you could find. Whatever occurred at our gateway on that summer afternoon, caused by person or persons as yet unknown, inflicted something very sinister on our eldest daughter, Deirdre. Later that evening, when Bernie and I were both home from work, we were concerned. Deirdre was not at home, and there had been no contact from her, and that was very much out of character. We contacted all her local friends, but no one had any knowledge of her whereabouts. We then reported our concern to the local Garda station in Newbridge. They understood our feelings that something was out of the ordinary. Something out of the ordinary had happened to Deirdre. And they immediately set about making inquiries that night. The following morning, as no trace of Deirdre had been discovered overnight, Sergeant Seamus Rothwell put in place a search of the local areas. In the days that followed, this developed into a huge search by a great number of people from Newbridge area and beyond, many units of Gardaí from different stations, many of whom were off duty, along with Civil Defence, Sub-Aqua, many community groups and organisations. This massive search, landscape search, lasted weeks, coordinated by Sergeant Rothwell. Alongside this search, the Gardaí were conducting an investigation, making inquiries, issuing questionnaires, going door to door, and much more. However, no trace of Deirdre was uncovered, then or through all the years that have followed. Over the years, many searches concentrating on small areas have been conducted with no result. However, Gardaí have assured us that these types of searches will continue. In 2018, Deirdre's case was reclassified to one of murder. A new team of investigators analysed Deirdre's case files, presented them to the DPP. After a long reading, the DPP decided against the prosecution. What is important through a missing persons investigation is that investigators open and maintain good communication channels with families. There is nothing more soul-destroying than to be left in the dark. Even if there is little or maybe nothing to convey, please tell us. And I have to say, at this stage, we had great cooperation over the years from many Gardaí, and we thank them for it. And we continue to have great confidence in their work. I'm going to break away from what I had prepared now at this stage because I took very much on board what Minister Brown had to say. Just to say that the family of missing persons, particularly those who are missing for a long time, have great concern, particularly about the unidentified remains. And we can't help, you can't blame us for thinking, is the remains of our loved ones one of those unidentified ones? And maybe we will ask the Minister, maybe if in the near future you could come to meet a group of us to discuss those issues. It is now 25 years since that summer afternoon on the 28th of July 1998, when Deirdre walked from the town to our home, arrived at the gate and was never seen again. The search to find Deirdre was put in place and coordinated by Seamus Rothwell, now Inspector Rothwell. A few years later, when Detective Pat Donlan retired as our liaison officer, Seamus became our new liaison officer and continued in that role until just a few days ago. He has worked tirelessly to help us in every way possible. He was always on hand, day or night, on duty or off duty, to pull us through many difficult and many very, very dark days. He was a shoulder to cry on. His gentle, easy manner allowed him to discuss with us some things, sometimes upsetting aspects of the case, in a kind and considerate way. He helped us in a way that displayed an ethos of the very best attributes of An Garda Síochána. Inspector Seamus Rothwell retired a few days ago. He is with us today, as he has been each year since the Missing Persons Day began. Seamus, we thank you from the bottom of our heart, and we wish you ever happiness in your retirement. And now Kathleen Berrigan will say some words. Kathleen is a sister of Jojo Dollards, and Seamus Rothwell was also her liaison officer. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Michael. Our family would like to take this opportunity to say a few words to Seamus Rothwell, who has been our family liaison officer since 2013. We want to thank you for your help and support throughout all these years. Seamus has always kept us up informed and up to date on Jojo's case. Our family will be forever grateful for the compassion he has shown us. It's vital to have clear and open communications between An Garda Síochána and the families of missing people. We wish you all the best in your retirement, Seamus. Thanks again for all the hard work you've done for us.
Thank you so much to both Michael and Kathleen for your words, and thank you also to the choir, to Bianca and Robbie for that moment of solemn reflection that they gave us over the names and images of your missing loved ones. Now we are going to have some more music from the choir from Loreto Abbey Dalkey. Following that, we will have a pre-recorded message from Leona Teig, who will tell us about her sister Jean. Leona is based in New York and she can't be with us in person, but I know that she and the rest of her family are watching today. After Leona, Don Mescal will perform live for us. So thank you very much, everyone.
My name is Leona Tai. My beautiful sister Jean disappeared from the hostel where she was staying in Prada, Lisbon, Portugal on the afternoon of July 13th, 2020. What we know is that Jean was going to meet someone that Monday afternoon when she left the hostel with her handbag, but she never returned. We know that something happened to her on Monday, July 13th, 2020, because we discovered that she had planned to stay on in the hostel the night of July 13th and booked a flight on July 12th to fly back to Dublin on July 15th. That's a lot of planned activities. So from the beginning, we felt something had suddenly happened to affect those plans, and we've never heard a plausible explanation of what that might have been. My sister Jean is a kind, compassionate and carefree woman who would help anyone out. And with Jean, the glass is always half full. We went to India together in our 20s, and Jean was so completely caught up with the whole experience that she didn't mind the mice in the kitchen of our accommodation, assuring me that, at the very least, we'd be sure to lose weight during the trip. Jean disappeared during COVID, which was already an extremely stressful time. So to a certain extent, it felt like the emotional pressure was ramping up from high to overload. When we realised that our sister was missing, we couldn't believe it, the shock of it. You get that horrible sinking feeling that never subsequently quite goes away. The dread and terror that you feel is paralysing, totally overwhelming. Instinctively, you start making plans and gathering resources to take action because your only thought is towards the steps necessary to find out what happened to her, to locate her, and to bring her back home. But this is a journey that can't be walked alone. When a loved one disappears abroad, one needs strong people around you to support you emotionally, and professional allies with the skill set and wherewithal to guide you on the journey, help you in interaction with the local authorities, and apply political pressure to ensure the case is not forgotten. You need access to people within the Garda Síochána, the Department of Foreign Affairs, and the Department of Justice to help you navigate the process with the local police, because you're dealing with a language barrier, different police systems, legal systems, people and culture. And trying to fend for yourself in this unfamiliar territory is both hugely frustrating for you and potentially detrimental to the case of the missing, depending on the extent to which emotion boils over with the danger of bridges being burned. The people best suited to dealing with officialdom abroad are to be found among the ranks of officialdom domestically. It is absolutely crucial that you have them on your side and that they are pleading your case with their counterparts overseas. Without that pressure, it is very difficult to make anything happen. Unfortunately, my initial experience wasn't ideal, with some parties inclined to bow out and leave all interactions with the Portuguese to me. But eventually, thanks to the intervention of very helpful local TDs, there was a shift in this attitude. And what was initially not our problem became a joint effort. It is imperative you get to that place as soon as possible after the disappearance. Before we got to that place, it was like every small thing was a fight. The unwillingness to help was apparent in a lack of organisation, communication, and anything approaching true investigation. And this increasingly became very frustrating and difficult to deal with. It seemed like nothing at all was being done, and we were being set adrift at sea in a leaky boat and told to find your own way to shore with no compass or life raft. In Portugal, we were being told that they were simply not going to investigate our sister's disappearance, which makes you feel worthless, both in yourself and on behalf of her. So you're trying to figure out, is this because she's a woman, a tourist, a lone traveller, or just a local and therefore not a political priority? The truth probably lies in the last piece, unfortunately. That's the way the world works, and it's only pressure from the Irish authorities that can make this a priority abroad. In order to gather this support, We needed a huge amount of publicity to get people's attention. We have been very much indebted to RTE, local newspapers in both countries, and local community groups who rallied to our cause and spread the word about Jean's disappearance. While public attention is not necessarily everyone's cup of tea, biting the bullet and pursuing a media-based campaign may ultimately be the only route to where you need to go. The current status of the investigation is that I have monthly catch-up calls with Senior Inspector in the Portuguese police. While this phase has only recently started, I do draw hope from the very little bits of incremental progress that we make, like the confirmations that certain tasks have been performed and the plans for future steps in the investigation. I still get frustrated occasionally that it has taken so long to get to this point, and that I feel like I constantly need to keep the pressure on the authorities or progress will lapse. But hope keeps my eye on the ball through these frustrations and gives me the strength to keep going. I'm thankful for the opportunity to speak today on this topic. I think Missing Persons Day gives us all the opportunity to ensure that our missing loved ones are not forgotten, to share our experiences, learn from what works and what doesn't, and hopefully to both seek and provide support amidst the broader community of what I would call the searchers. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Don Mescal. It's a real honour to be here, to be part of this ceremony. There were times in my life where I may have felt a little bit lost, and when I had my daughter, who's now, Eve is 25, same age as Deirdre Jacob, I wanted to make sure that that I wrote a song that would encourage her always to come to me if there was anything ever wrong in her life. So this is a little song called Lighthouse Keeper. It's a fine line between what's real and what's make-believe. In your beautiful hair, and all the king's horses and all the king's men, they can't even get you to bed. But outside the real world is raging, and thieves want to steal you away. And one day they will, I promise, until the last star is falling, your days will be golden. 'Cause out where the oceans break, paper boats and pirates sail away under the crimson moon. My little angel sleeper, let me be your lighthouse keeper. Your lighthouse keeper. There'll come a time you'll see the world for what it is, and you won't look away. Don't let go of your dreams, it's not all that it seems. Don't you surrender, always remember that out where the oceans break, paper boats and pirates sail away under the crimson moon. Be safe, my angel sleeper, let me be your lighthouse keeper. your lighthouse keeper. And when the darkness falls, look for the light to guide you home under the crimson moon. Stay safe, my angel sleeper, I'll always be your lighthouse keeper. Be safe, my angel sleeper, let me be your lighthouse keeper. I'll be your lighthouse keeper, your lighthouse keeper. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Don. That was really beautiful. And thank you also to Niamh and the choir and to Leona for her video message today. Now we are going to hear from Assistant Chief Constable Ryan Henderson from the PSNI, and following his address, John Hill, Lead Investigator for the Independent Commission for the Location of Victims' Remains, will speak to us. And then the choir will join us to perform one more time. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Anya, for your kind words, and thank you to those who've spoken so bravely and warmly so far, and for those who have performed so beautifully for us today. I'm very thankful. Good afternoon, families, friends and loved ones of those missing. Minister Brown, Commissioner Harris, police colleagues, those guests who are with us here in the room today and those watching from home. It's an absolute pleasure and privilege to represent the Police Service of Northern Ireland on this special occasion, and I'm very grateful for the invitation to join you today. Grateful also to be able to speak with you for a few moments about the important work that we in the Police Service of Northern Ireland are doing in relation to missing persons, but importantly how truly humbled I am to hear the individual reflections from those whose loved ones are missing. In attending the event today comes a very opportune and timely moment for us in the police service, and I'm delighted to have with me today Superintendent Kelly Moore, who's recently taken over the missing persons portfolio within our service. Joined also today, delighted to have them, colleagues from the Police Service of Northern Ireland who are also involved and hugely invested in this very important work that we are doing in relation to missing persons. This afternoon, being able to listen to those very personal stories, view the incredibly poignant images, see the names of the missing displayed on our screens, strikes a very deep chord with me, both as a police officer and as a father. And it speaks to us and reminds us, I think, strongly of the very, very human need for answers in relation to what has happened to your loved ones and where they are. And that empathy for the past should drive our action today and indeed cause us to prepare for the future. I'm really pleased to be able to tell you today that how in 2023 has very much been a year of focus on missing persons within the Police Service of Northern Ireland. This year, over 1,000 police officers and staff have been trained in various elements of missing persons investigations, with further training to be rolled out across our service over the next year. We've also introduced a very important new protocol with our partners in health and social care, focused on children who go missing. We've developed a new missing persons service instruction which has strengthened our working relationships with partner agencies. It was referred to earlier as the searchers, those such as the Coast Guard. We've launched a new digital system for the management of missing persons, and that's to try and focus us very strongly on making the most of investigative opportunities at the earliest stages of a missing person report, ensuring that should any missing person inquiry extend over the long term, like some of those that we have heard of today, that at the earliest stage we have recorded digitally witness statements, we've taken the appropriate forensic information such as DNA or familial DNA, should that be required to be preserved to help in our efforts to reunite families with their loved ones. And it's very much the past speaking to us today, knowing that missing person cases such as those that we've heard of and seen on our screens can last for many years. And that drives us forward to ensure that every missing person investigation is treated seriously and pursued effectively. And of course, not only do we seek to improve missing person investigations looking ahead and going into the future, but we firmly keep an eye on our past as well. And what I can do is offer you reassurance that we as a police service will continue to work alongside families, our colleagues in Garda Síochána, the agencies across the island of Ireland and further afield to try and give you the answers to the many unanswered questions that I know you have. One cannot help but be moved and inspired by your resilience, your honesty, your humility, and your hope. And hope is the expectation of a positive outcome, and I and my colleagues share in your hopes. The hope that through commemorations like today, appeals for information, further searches, and continuing investigations, that those who are missing, your loved ones, can be returned to you. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak and to be with you today.
Good afternoon. John Hill. I'm the lead investigator for the Independent Commission for the Location of Victims' Remains. Minister, Commissioner Harris, and indeed Commissioner Tim Dalton is in here today somewhere. Friends and relatives of the disappeared and the missing, I wanted to take this opportunity to be able to speak to you about the Commission, its establishment and its functions. Very briefly, the Commission was established following the Good Friday Agreement in 1998 and actually came into force in 1999 when legislation was produced that developed a system whereby information could be provided to the Commission without fear of it being disclosed outside of our remit. So it's purely and simply to recover the remains of the disappeared. There is no evidential trail, if you like. The information is only for that purpose. There are two commissioners were appointed, one from the Republic of Ireland and one from the UK. They work jointly throughout this whole procedure. Currently we have Commissioner Tim Dalton, who was a former member of the civil service within the Republic of Ireland, and then in the north we have Rosalie Flanagan, who likewise had a similar position. Both of them featured quite strongly within the Good Friday peace process. So it is to receive information purely, as I said, to recover the remains of those and to discover only and to disclose only that information that's necessary to facilitate a search. So the victims were defined, they're quite clearly defined as those who were killed prior to the Good Friday Agreement of 1998 and generally during the time of the Troubles. So the concept is that it's beyond from 1970 onwards and obviously secretly buried as a result of that. The legislation that was passed was quite innovative and perhaps controversial at the time because that information that's provided to the Commission can only be used for the Commission purposes. It can't be used in any criminal proceedings. And I understand that some may have contested that in the first instance, but now it seems to be accepted and people recognise the need for that position. No forensic examination is permitted to be carried out on the remains of those that are found, nor even the grave site, which again is perhaps may stick with some people. There's no amnesty that's been provided within the Commission, so should the law enforcement, whether it be in the north or the south, uncover information of their own, there could be a prosecution. That hasn't been the case so far, but there is no amnesty. The case proceeds on the basis that the Commission will undertake their work as they need to. So in the early days, that information was passed to the Commission through a fairly lengthy process. There were admissions made by the Provisional IRA and a list was produced. It was published in the Republican News. It wasn't a full list, it wasn't a comprehensive one, it had a number of people on it. And then as time went on, that list was added to. Intermediaries were shown the location where the remains were believed to have been buried. That information was then passed through the chain to the Commission, then in turn to Garda Síochána, because invariably it was in the Republic, and then in turn to those carrying out the searches. It's no surprise that that chain of information broke down at some stages. So the Commission was seen purely as a conduit. Searches were undertaken by Garda Síochána on behalf of the Commission. And then in 2005, my predecessor, Jeff Nupfer, he was asked to come and review the practices of the Commission to see what more could be done to achieve perhaps a little more success than they'd had so far. So an investigation team was established in 2006. That was when I retired from the police service in London, and I came to work for the Commission for 3 or 4 months. That 3 or 4 months hasn't ended as yet, it seems. But so there was a head of investigations was appointed. Then there were a number of experts, opportunities, disciplines that were brought into play with the Commission business. So you can see the whole list of them there. All of them are techniques that are extremely useful in discovering the remains of people, particularly in these rural areas that we've been looking at. But again, back then it was fairly innovative to be using forensic archaeologists, and I'm pleased to say one of the best ones is here today, Dr. Neve McCullough, who's worked on and off for us for many, many years, and it's very much appreciated her work. But all of those skills, all of those techniques have been deployed in some degree or another throughout the Commission's business. The forensic science provision. So one of my first jobs was to take DNA samples from all of the families that were willing to provide those samples, and I'm happy to say all of them did. We set up our own independent DNA database that was stored within the forensic service in England, and it was separate, as I say, from law enforcement. It isn't able to be searched by law enforcement agencies, otherwise we would never have got the samples. And it's remained independent and separate from them ever since. And a press liaison officer, equally as important in managing the press and managing the systems that we use to get our message across. So we then adopted this sequential approach. So liaising with those organisations, you can see all the systems that we've gone through there, and it was always in that sequential approach that we adopted on each of the cases. Some of them may not be applicable, but most of them, if not all of them, were considered. This is just one of the sites where we undertook one of the searches. Each of those squares that you can see there on there are 20-metre grids. So we map them out using GPS technology to get complete accuracy on where we're looking. The red box that you can see there indicates what we considered to be the priority area, that area that the information we provided suggested where the remains ought to be found if that information proved to be correct. We then deployed the geophysics, as I've mentioned before, and indeed cadaver dogs. We ended up with 41 anomalies that are identified within that area and a couple of dog indications. Now, what often happens is that if you only search those anomalies, you actually destroy the chances of searching the ground next to it, so it's self-defeatist. So we tend to work, whenever there's a large number like that, in a progressive fashion, working from perhaps the least likely area into the more likely, so that we don't destroy or so that we preserve the integrity of the ground before the archaeologists are able to search properly. On this one in particular, we went to the extraordinary length of having to move all the topsoil off of the ground before we could undertake the search. We're working always with the support of the local community, with the families, with the landowners, and so we encourage and do whatever we can to maintain that support. We do, interestingly, within the legislation, have a power to apply for search warrants. We've never actually had to. We've always had the support and the agreement that we've been able to do that. So in this case, the topsoil was moved off, then the searching was undertaken. Now you can manage just about to see on here that there is a slightly darkened area, maybe to the right and equally to the left of that rule that's on the ground. That is what the forensic archaeologists are looking for, signs or indications that the ground has been disturbed. In other words, it's something slightly different to what the surroundings are. Unfortunately, most of the areas we work in are peat bogs, where of course there is searching going on, there is digging and going on all the time, and so it's not unusual to come across that kind of feature. And it didn't strictly reflect the information that we had. However, whenever they get to that stage, it's always done by hand. So the machines are working always on these wide track machines on large plates of steel, mats they call them, to preserve the integrity of the ground. And this one was no exception, so it was undertaken by hand, and that, I'm glad to say, did result in the recovery of, well, in fact, 2 of the disappeared. This is an example here of one of the extraordinary lengths that we've gone to in the Commission, that on this occasion we had 1.5 miles of drainage that was installed purely so that we could get to the ground to be able to search it. It's quite unbelievable. When we first got there, it was a lake. The place was a lake. When we looked into the history of it, that was a result of a tree that had fallen in 1987. The water had all backed up, covered the ground. Initially, you would have thought it was impossible that there could have been a burial taking place there. And under deep cover there, you can just about see Niamh McCullough. She's monitoring the machine as it's moving. It's scraping the surface back in very, very small degrees, maybe 2 or 3 inches at a time, looking for an indication like we saw earlier on. And this one, we had to create drainage around each block purely for them to be able to work and manage without the water covering over what they were looking for. So to date, there's a fairly lengthy list there of the disappeared who've been recovered. And when I first started, that list was far shorter. And this list of the outstanding remaining cases, just 4 as we stand at the moment, was far longer. So I'm glad to say that that has been the case. And since I've been engaged with the Commission, we've recovered 8 of the disappeared, which I take extreme. I'm extremely proud to be able to say, but it is as a result of the commitment that all of the staff employed by the Commission, all of whom, by the way, are part-time. There are no full-time staff within the Commission. We only work when we need to be working. So we only come in whenever there's something to be done. Although there seems to be quite a lot in the background. Most times the investigators are working at varying degrees throughout the years, but once the searches started, then the experts come in. We manage the searches, but they are only called upon when there's work for them to be doing. So in summary, the information is absolutely crucial. It's essential to what we do. There are no body detection machines. There are no technologies that are going to find bodies without being in the right place, in the right location, in the first instance. The scientific processes, all of those techniques have the potential to reduce the size of the searches. But I'm always conscious as well that while these searches are going on, it's a dreadful drain on the families. We keep them updated whilst the searches are ongoing, not on a daily basis, but certainly on a regular basis. And that's one of our undertakings, that should anything significant come to notice, that we ensure they're made aware before anyone else is. So we consider all of those scientific options, don't necessarily use them. It depends. We apply it to the area where we're working. Invariably, a lot of our searches have had a number of searches, a number of our cases have had a number of searches undertaken in pretty much the same area. So the ground has already been compromised to a fair degree. There will be no point in using, say, ground penetrating radar to look for cuts or depressions in ground that could have been caused during the searches that we've done undertaken over the years previously. But thankfully, the records that we have, we can always reflect back on to know where we've been. And as I've already mentioned, the undertaking to keep the relatives informed and updated is absolutely paramount in our work. So the definition of success, the easy definition of success would be that we found the remains of the loved one. But I would say that second to that is ensuring that the families and indeed the governments are comfortable that the Commission have done all they can to achieve that end. So we have these systems and methods that we would encourage any people who have information to provide that detail to us so that we can continue with our work. As I've said, it is actually the lifeblood of the Commission. The information is completely and utterly confidential. It's never gone beyond the Commission. There has never been any compromise of information that's come to the Commission, and we have only been successful as a result of that information. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much, Assistant Chief Constable and John, for those very inspiring stories. I really appreciate that. Can I now invite our choir to come forward for their last performance today? Thank you. I think you'll agree with me that the choir have made a very significant contribution to our ceremony today. The music has been really, really beautiful, girls, and we really appreciate you coming over. And thank you also to Niamh and Conor, who've led them so ably. I know we had one of your colleagues was a little unwell. I hope you're back with us. Excellent. Okay, well done. Thank you so much, girls. Thank you, Niamh, and thank you, Conor. Now we will hear from Rom Hyde, who will speak to us about his brother, Peter. Following Rom's contribution, Don Meskel will perform once more, and we will then hear from Colin Bell of the Kevin Bell Repatriation Trust. So, Rom, if I can invite you forward now, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Anya. Minister Harris, Commissioner Harris and Minister Brown and everybody here. I suppose it's important to say that all of our experiences in the missing persons and missing people are all joined together by the same threads of hope, anxiety and pain. And the theme today is the theme of hope. And I think that it's important that we all hold on to that bit of hope. My name is Ram Hyde, and I'm talking about my brother Peter, who went missing on the 3rd of March 1981. It is probably important to say that I don't think that Peter was the victim of anything other than just going missing. He was upset and he was a little bit depressed, but he left his apartment at about 7:30 on the 3rd of March 1981, and neither he nor the car was ever found again. Bank accounts were never touched, nothing. And I remember the following day, the angst and the hurt and the trauma in the house when my mother and father and all the family were together, and we were trying to work out where he might have gone. What would he have done? Did he have friends somewhere? Did he just go away for a few days? And as time went on, I remember saying to my mother at the end of the week, if we don't see Peter within 2 weeks, we won't see him for 20 years. And it kind of went that way. And we never heard or saw of him again. Now, there were reported sightings. He was reportedly seen in London by a bank manager. He was reportedly seen in London by somebody else. He was reportedly seen in Dublin. A cousin of ours in Melbourne in Australia saw him twice, reportedly. And a friend of mine said that he got a call from a friend of his in Johannesburg, and Peter was at a party there. We chased up all those leads. I was always looking for something. Where could he have gone? That he didn't take money. And I thought he possibly have gone down maybe as far as Rosslare, and that he'd have taken the boat across to England. And I always felt that we would find Peter someday, and he'd probably be living in a cardboard box under Putney Bridge or somewhere like that. He was an electrician, but he was a little bit of a loner. Nothing ever came of anything. And all the searches, and I tried the county councils, Rosslare Harbour. Every year I do a different tack, and I try and figure out a different way that perhaps I might be able to get some inkling of where he might have gone and what he might have done. I must say that the Waterford County Council guys were very good. I was looking to see if there was an abandoned car found around that date, and they were very helpful. But most of the others, GDPR becomes the pain in the arse for everybody, I must say. And so we left it, and I just kept on going until something happened 3 years ago in 2001. And there was a body and a car pulled out of Cork Harbour. It was a local man, a local young man, and he was missing from Crosshaven for 17 years. After coming out of the pub at night, he was missing for 17 years. And I was doing a job, and my daughter rang me and said they're after pulling a car out of the water. My daughter Kate, she's here today with me, along with my two sisters, Lorna and Judith. I thought it possibly could have been Peter, but it wasn't Peter. It was Barry Collin, who unfortunately had been missing for 17 years and was still in the car and by the pier. But that night, something triggered inside me that night, and I sat on the side of the bed on my own, and I said, Peter's dead. Peter's dead, and he's in the water. And I suppose at that point, hope, which we're all talking about today, hope for me at that stage was on life support in an ICU with just and very ill. But there was still a pulse there. And hope had two twins, two of the triplets, hope, were resilience and strength. And I had the strength and the resilience to bring hope around and bring the pulse back. So I came back home and I said, he must be in the river or in the water somewhere. And a friend of mine who's living on the eastern side of Cork Harbour. I contacted him and I said, it's very difficult to go missing in Cork. Lots of people go into the river. It's astonishing. Lots of tragedies, but you're nearly always seen. The quays, you're nearly always seen. And I said, this friend of mine, Colm, we were at school together and he knew Peter. And I said, Colm, could you try the eastern side of the harbour and somewhere where a car could go in where he wouldn't be seen going in? And I'll do from the city, maybe out as far as Inniscarra Dam. And then Colm said to me, you know, Ron, I'm a water diviner. And I said, yeah, but what has that got to do with the price of eggs? And he said, a friend of mine has had a boat up for hire up on one of the lakes on the Shannon, and some guys that they hired it out to went in over rough ground and tore the bottom of the boat, and when she went out into the middle of the lake, the boat sank. The fellas were rescued, but the man that owned the boat had no evidence of the boat, and so he couldn't get the insurance on it. So he sent Colm down a chart of the lake, and Colm did a grid box like we were shown there on the lake. He did on the chart, he did a grid box, inch square grid box, and he's a water diviner, and he started to get feelings for a certain spot. He marked it on the chart and he sent it back to his friend, and when they went out on the boat where it was marked on the chart, the boat was down there and they recovered it. So he said to me, if you like, we can do the same for Peter. And being a sailing man, I have charts of the lower harbour, but not of the upper harbour. And so I got a chart, and we did the same thing. We went down to his house, and I covered the chart with a grid box of greaseproof paper, inch by inch, and Colm went out in the hall, and he had his wand, as we call it, and I just got the pencil and I went across each box and said, next, next, next. And then he'd come back and he'd say, mark that spot. And we did that all the way across the chart. And where we had marked the spot, I came back and we had a look at it. And on those charts, they only show what's happening on the water, the channels, and the buoys and things like that. But there was lines on it that I could identify as part of the roads. And I said, I know where that is. And we went at that stage to the Cork City Missing Persons and Recovery Unit, who are absolutely fantastic guys. And that was in the middle of August 2021. And I showed them the area, and the area where I said he could have gone in was an area that was not visible from the road. And as it was about 7:30 in the morning, in early March, light would have been dull, and there was no way anyone from the road or from the nearby houses would have seen him. And the car went in, we reckoned there. And from the middle of August until January, those guys every now and again would go down, and they had their sonar fish towing behind the ribs, and they'd be looking, and they'd found shopping trolleys and baskets and things like that, but there was no sign of a car. And then on the 5th of January, the same year, 2022, the 5th of January 2022, Sunday morning, and I woke and I said to my wife, I'm going to go down and have a look and see is there anywhere else that the car could have gone in apart from there. And when I went down, the boys in the missing persons, Cork City Missing Persons, were out in the river on their rib, and they signalled to me, and they came in and they said, we just found something. And 2 days later, we went to the Garda Barracks in Douglas, which was where our family lived, and they were the ones organising. Everything went through Douglas Barracks, and we had to lodge an official report, and then it became a Garda investigation. And the Garda Sub-Aqua team came to Cork it was the bank holiday weekend, I think, in the end of May or June. But they couldn't penetrate the ground. We're not terribly sure, even at this stage, we're not terribly sure why. We had marked the spot. I brought Colm up again to the actual spot, and he brought his divining branch, and we did a coordinates and a cross-reference to things on the river to see if we could find where the point was. and it was coming out at exactly the same point that the missing persons guys had found what was a car, because you could see it on the image. It was at an angle of 45 degrees on its roof, and we could see 2 wheels of it, but we couldn't verify it. And so Gardaí had to go back to Dublin because they couldn't penetrate the ground. And then we decided, or at least the Gardaí decided, that the whole place would have to be kind of excavated. But that just takes time, and sometimes the ball gets stuck in the long grass. I have Angus Cotter, my liaison guard in Cork, who's an absolute gentleman, and Dennis Lynch, Detective Inspector Dennis Lynch. They couldn't have been more helpful. But it went on, and we just kept on pushing, and also rattling the cage a little bit until they got prices for a commercial company to come in and clear the place out. But that didn't come to anything. I think there were too many imponderables there. And what you must remember about silt, not everybody here will be involved in the marine industry or with boats. If you take out a load of silt, all the silt around it just goes back into it, falls into it. So it's always moving. And if you dredge a part of it, the silt nearby will slide in straight away into the space. So the car could be moving. Roll it forward a little bit until this year. I know the commissioners here, and the money was approved to do all the work. And then we roll it forward to this year, and we got a commercial company became involved through friendship and knowing guys in the Cork City Missing Persons, and they came up and they did a survey using a sub-bottom profiling unit. We were also talking about using a magnetometer, but the readings could be picking up metal from the road. Anyway, they came back, and they came back again subsequently, and that was this September. And I was told then that they would be coming to try and get the car out in the start of November. And then the start of November came, and I know, I'm not a policeman, but I know like the troubles that were in Dublin here recently, and other bodies being found missing. It does take the vagaries of time and of the resources that are available. And so it got pushed back till the end of November. And then when it came to the end of November, poor Angus was he was the messenger that always got shot, because he would say to me, Rom, they won't be down until. So I got a phone call from him a couple of days ago, and all I'm saying is that hope is alive and well, and that they're coming down on the 17th of this month, which is just next Tuesday, and they're going to start the process of trying to recover the car. Now, it may not be the car we're looking for. It may not be a car. This is always the imponderable. But the other thing is that if it is a car, it may not be Peter inside in it. But if it isn't, and there is someone inside in it, it will bring closure to another family. And that's the most important thing for us. And so, hope as well. And I thank Anya and everybody here for your time today. And please God, the next time we meet, we will have better news. And just to finish up, my father had a bottle of champagne in a drawer at home. And he said, when Peter comes home, he said, we'll celebrate with that. And when the house was sold, I cleared out the house. And the bottle of champagne is still in my house. And I hope to use it as an offering for his Mass. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Don, and we're delighted to invite, thank you so much, Rom, apologies. I'm delighted to invite Don back to the stage again. Thank you, Don.
It's very grounding to be sitting and listening to all these stories, and It makes you, I guess, realise how lucky you have been in your own life. But I love the fact that there's people are holding on to hope, because hope is everything. It's the will to survive, and this is a song that I wrote about hope, really, I guess. And I've always believed that there's healing in music. So, there we go. May the sun rise up to meet you at the start of every day. When the stars come out to greet you, may they take your breath away. May you find the simple beauty of life and everything. And may love be the last song that you sing. May you dance in the moonlight with a lover by your side. May you bathe in the water, ever-changing light. And may your spirit rise above you when your faith is wearing thin. And may love be the last song that you sing. Oh, may love be the last song. Love be the last song. Love be the last song that you sing. At the dimming of the hour, as the bells of freedom ring, may love be the last song that you sing. May your troubles all be blessings, though the reason's hard to take. May you offer up forgiveness, though your heart is sure to break. And let that moment you surrender be the battle that you win. And may love be the last song that you sing. Oh, may love be the last song. Love be the last song. Love be the last song that you sing. At the dimming of the hours, the bells of freedom ring. May love be the last song that you sing. May compassion be the measure. If you fail or you succeed, and may you know the sweet abundance of no more than you need. May you celebrate the moment, oh, whatever it may bring. May love be the last song that you sing. And may your heart be ever faithful. May the words you speak be true. May you seek the good in others as they find the good in you. And let one simple word of kindness be a flame that burns within. May love be the last song that you sing. May love be the last song. May love be the last song. May love be the last song that you sing. The dimming of the hours, bells of freedom ring. Let love be the last song that you sing. Oh, may love be that last song that you sing. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Anya, for inviting me to come here today for such a lovely and emotional event. My name is Colin Bell, and I'm from Newry, County Down, the best town in Ireland. And I have a reason for saying that, and you'll understand. In 2013, in June the 16th, 2013, we lost our son Kevin in a hit and run in New York, Woodlawn, New York. Kevin was 26 years old, loved life, loved travel, loved crack, loved drink. He just loved life. He had spent time in Australia. He had spent time travelling here, there and everywhere, arrived in New York, and finally found a place where he thought was big enough for his character, because he was a big character. He had only been there 10 months and went out on Saturday evening as normal. And on arrival back at his apartment at about a quarter to 3 on a Sunday morning, he got out of his taxi, was going to his apartment, and a speeding white van came around the corner, hit him, actually put him onto the road, where he was hit by another vehicle, and both vehicles drove off. Mercifully, Kevin would have known nothing about it and died on the spot. Now, to give you just a wee bit of a background, as I was saying, we're from Newry. And as a family, well, Newry is nominally a city, but it really is just a big town. And if you don't know everybody in it, you know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody. So you really are, it's a big town. And as a family, we were particularly well known in the town in that Ethna's father founded the credit union. Ethna's mother was the chairperson of Newry Fesh. My father taught for 43 years in the Christian Brothers Primary School. He was also an SDLP counsellor in the 70s. My mother she taught drama and English in the Sacred Heart Grammar School, which she also produced Newry Musical Society. My wife, Ethna, big into the arts in every drama society, musical society, choir in the town. I myself, though you wouldn't believe it, I played minor, under 21 and senior football with Down. And I also played 7 seasons in the Irish League with Newry Town. In fact, I'm one of the few really. I played here in Croke Park, and I played in Windsor Park. And though to be honest, they don't look like how they look now. But I also I spent 14 years teaching in Belfast, and then 26 years teaching in the same Abbey Primary School. So as a family, we were very, very well known. And when news broke on the Sunday that Kevin had been killed, the town just went into an absolute frenzy of fundraising to bring Kevin home. As I said, Kevin was killed on a Sunday. On Tuesday night in the Canal Court Hotel, there was a quiz that raised £45,000. There was a fun run and walk on the Thursday night, raised £25,000. People were doing bagpacks, anything they could. And in total, there was £150,000 raised in Newry to bring Kevin home. Well, Newry, South Armagh, South Down. And so what actually happened was his employers in America actually paid for Kevin to come home, So we had £150,000, which wasn't ours. So a week after Kevin's funeral, we heard of a young fella from Carryduff beside Belfast had been killed in Thailand. So we contacted his parents and we said, we have this money, we'll pay to bring your son home. The following week there was a young fella from Sligo in Las Vegas, fell, hit his head and died. So again we reached out to his parents and said, we have this money, we'll pay to bring your son home. Following week there was a girl from Uri died in Portsmouth. So we thought, right, once this £150,000 is spent, I mean, that would be the end of it. Then a family who lost a son, a family from Leitrim beside Castlewellan in County Down, in 2012, their son was killed in Australia, and there was a lot of money raised to bring him home. And they came to us and said, look, we have over £70,000 here. Would you take it and use it to continue our work? And we did, and then people started to do fundraisers, and like we had no idea we were going to start a charity. But then we decided, right, we'll make this Kevin's legacy. So we applied to the Charity Commission in Northern Ireland. It took us about a year to get charity status. We applied to the charity regulator down south and became a charity. And then in 2014 we had a meeting with Jimmy Dinahan, who was the Minister for the Diaspora, and after that meeting every Irish embassy and consulate in the world were given our number. So if anybody contacted the Department of Foreign Affairs even, they would be given our number. So in the 10 years now since Kevin's death, now unfortunately we've taken home 1,720 people from all over the world back to their families. We generally take, it comes in waves, but generally it's about 250 people every year. And I mean, for example, in July there was 35 we took home in the 1 month. Now, again, to say it's not us doing it. We're so lucky. We are a charity. We've only one employee. Nobody gets paid. We've one employee. We don't have to fundraise for ourselves because people fundraise for us. I mean, there are fundraisers wherever there are Irish in the world. There are fundraisers for the Kevin Bell Repatriation Trust, and families sometimes, if they're able to, do fundraisers. But we, as an organisation, we don't. Now, of course, it's not now Kevin who's bringing everybody home. It's people in Ireland, and that's why I said we're so lucky. We're also very lucky in the fact that community is so great in Ireland. That's the big thing, and I can say this hand on heart. Up north, community is amazing. Down south, community is amazing. We work both sides. We work both sides of the community. I taught for 14 years in Belfast. I lived in Belfast for 14 years. I was never up the Shankill Road. I could now take you up the Shankill Road and give you a tour because people do fundraisers for us, and we work. We were so lucky, and that's what being Irish and having community means. I say we're also so lucky. I mean, here today and hearing the stories, and I remember when Kevin died. Obviously, he died in New York, It took some days for Kevin to come home. Those days, my wife Ethna couldn't eat, she couldn't sleep, she couldn't just function. And the minute Kevin's body was carried through into our house, through the front door of our house, there came with it a calmness. He was home, he was safe, and that is what I wish for all you lovely people. Thank you very much.
Before I thank Colin and give you my closing remarks, I've actually been asked to make a small announcement. Could you check whether you might have lost a piece of jewellery? A ring was found in one of the bathrooms. So if you wouldn't mind checking, if you have, you can approach me or any of my colleagues and we'll reunite you. Colin, you mentioned building a legacy for Kevin. You haven't built him a legacy, you've built him a monument for the ages. It's extraordinary what you and your family have done for so many people. Thank you so much, Colin. Thank you to all our speakers, our musicians, our singers, everyone who participated, our Garda colleagues who are here, who helped support us bringing this day forward. I want to thank my team, who are always superb, but never more so than today. Our colleagues from other teams in the Department of Justice, the staff from Croke Park, Avcom, our senior leadership, the Garda Commissioner, Minister Brown, everyone who has made this day so special. Thank you in particular to those of you who shared your stories. I think we were all witnesses to your profoundly moving testimony today. When this baton was passed to me, I thought very hard about the essence of this day, and following some guidance from Carmel Griffin and Barry and others, Dermot included, what this day comes down to is you, the families. You are the beating heart of Missing Persons Day, as you are the voices of your loved ones who are just now silent, and the unfaltering backbones of your families. When Dermot first suggested theming today around hope, I'll admit that at first I hesitated. I am deeply conscious that I do not share your lived experience, and I would hate to say or do anything upsetting or hurtful. But when Dermot explained to me that hope looks different to everyone, I got it. You can hold hope for your loved ones who is missing, for yourselves or for others. Everyone's definition, experience, and expression of hope is valid. So today, to help keep that flame of hope alive, as well as our traditional red rose, you will each be given a candle inscribed with the word hope. The other ask that Dermot had was that Missing Persons Day, now a decade on, would grow. And I want to pay tribute to Minister Brown for responding to that ask and announcing today that from next year we will have a Missing Persons Week. As the Minister said, Missing Persons Week will comprise a week-long series of events and a social media campaign aimed at bringing that much-needed awareness to missing persons cases. My team, our colleagues in the Department of Justice and I look forward to working together to deliver this. This is a day that will stay with me for a long time. I very much hope that being here with us today has served you in some way. As I said earlier, being together is what today is all about. It brings me in mind of the Irish proverb, Níneart go cur le céile, or our strength lies in our togetherness. Our ceremony is ending now, but the day is not. Lunch will be served very shortly. There are 3 serving areas outside, stretching all the way down to the right, with seating, so please, I encourage you to stay a while and chat. Take your time. We are here for you. You are in no hurry. The Garda Band will now play us out, so thank you very much for your beautiful music, and thank you all.